Hey, I'm Tim from Circuitous Effects, and you're watching Defining Circuit. Defining Circuit is a periodic interview series where I chat with fellow creators in the music world about what inspired and defined their passion for building, the moments, ideas, experiences, and even the circuit that sparked their drive to create for musicians. I'm on with Brett Reinhardt from Tumult Audio this time. Thanks for chatting today, Brett.
Thanks, Tim. Glad to finally get to talk to you.
Well, let's start with you telling us about yourself and how you got into making pedals.
Yeah, so I've always been a DIYer, builder my whole life, and just ripping things apart, pulling stuff out of like alleys and bringing old TVs home, trying to fix them.
Yeah.
And then I started really getting heavy into music when I was around 18 or 19. I always played guitar, but I actually started playing with bands.
Mm.
And at that point, I realized I couldn't afford anything. So I was like, I know I could build stuff. And I started getting electronics books. I was taking courses in junior college, doing electronics and looking at computer engineering and trying to find my path.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I decided I need to go to college and become an electrical engineer. And I went to school in San Francisco. And I was always building and fixing stuff. I had a small business there when I was going through college. I was working the whole time, bartending and fixing things for people.
Okay.
From there, I graduated, moved to Seattle, and I continued repairing things and started building pedals for people. These were all one-off little hand-drawn, hand-painted chassis. And I was getting all these requests. And I finally decided, okay, it's time for me to actually start building a product line.
Right.
At that point, my now wife had a baby. So we moved back to California and we came to San Luis Obispo. And I started engineering here in the dairy industry. From there, I started building our whole entire product line, trying to sell not just onesies, twosies, but custom stuff for people. It was all just stuff that I've created. And for me, it was really important to design everything from scratch.
Yeah.
So I try not to use any schematics or any references and just build everything from just straight electronics books, kind of as a mental challenge, so I can accumulate knowledge based off of, just electronics in general, not pedals per se.
Yeah. Let's back up to when you started making pedals for friends and things. I mean, what was the introduction to creating, small circuits, and what was maybe even the first pedal you decided you wanted to make? And also, I guess, did that come from your education learning engineering just to ease into that? Or was that just like hey, I'm going to build a pedal and you just did it?
So initially, I had the electronics book, Electronic Projects for Musicians. So I used that to kind of just get a foundation of electronics. This was before I was actually went to a university. This is all just junior college level.
Okay.
So I was using that and I got really acquainted. I basically built every circuit inside that book just on breadboards and kind of built it. Sometimes I put it into chassis, sometimes I wouldn't. But I built everything inside of there just so I can get a fundamental grasp of how to wire things together and learn about the chips.
So as you were building pedals, did you come across any circuits that you particularly liked or figured out that it might be something that you might take further mod, try to figure out how it works, things like that?
Not really. I would mess with changing different filter values and resistors, capacitors, tried inductor filtering, which I've messed with a lot. But there was a long gap when I was actually going to college, and I was still trying to do audio-centric things in college, but I didn't have time to do very audio-centric. I think my grad project was a self-tuning guitar.
Okay.
And then I also we called it Talking Plants. It was a play on Talking Heads. And we put these probes inside of these Venus flytraps and would capture the frequency response off them to make audio out of them.
Wow.
So I tried to bring it all back home to, audio when I was all done, because that's basically what made me become an engineer. Like couldn't afford it, got to go in there and I'm going to make audio equipment. I was also working with Ugly Amplifiers back in my early 20s.
Okay.
And that was kind of the origins, because I was working with him. He was teaching me stuff about amps and amp repairs and all that stuff. So I got heavy into tube amps, which is now antiquated and can't get a job anywhere with tube amp expertise.
Yeah. I mean, do you still use that knowledge? I mean, have you built an amp recently, or is that something that was just a good thing to learn in your history?
Yeah, it's part of the history. Tube amps are, if you build them from scratch, it is extremely complicated. I'm actually I got a bunch of 12-volt tubes here that they used to use in car radios. I bought those from Russia, and I'm planning on building entirely tube guitar pedal, like
Oh.
no silicone at all, and they
Oh,
all run
wow.
off 12 volts. That's something that's I put in a box and it's been sitting there and it's been laughing at me, trying to get me to come do it. Just like, all right, go.
Crazy, crazy. All right,
Yeah.
so fast forward to now, and you say you're building all of your circuits not from pre-existing schematics. You're looking at electronics books and things. Where has that led you? What sort of, I guess, of your own personal schematics have come out of that, and some knowledge that's come out of that in terms of building pedals?
It's just all cumulative. So you just keep stacking and stacking and stacking. And now I have this big plethora of knowledge that it's all basically analog design, which
Mhm.
is kind of antiquated. It's kind of prominent in the audio industry and aerospace because it's more reliable than digital circuits. But it's given me this big backbone on just, analog design in general.
Yeah,
And my favorite thing about audio is you can hear the problem. You don't have to like probe it. It's like,
yeah.
okay, I can hear there's something wrong with this. And it's a lot easier to troubleshoot, but it's also harder to design too because you can hear it. Versus,
Okay.
you can have like a switch mode power supply causing noise in your thing, and you're just like, why is my circuit not working? And with audio, you can like actually hear the switcher in there, like, okay, I got to filter this more.
Okay, that's great. So you sent me a schematic of some inverting op amp stuff that you were doing, and I was wondering if you could maybe explain what that is and how that came from this sort of cumulative knowledge.
So when I was in college, I realized you could do just about anything with an op amp.
Mm,
And for me, it was like a kind of a personal goal. It's like, okay, let's do everything I possibly can with this op amp. So I built a low frequency oscillator, and it's really cool because I'm able to mix the waveforms and put
mm,
filtering on it. I have 3 stages inside of there, and you could really manipulate it. The more you know about the circuit, the more you could do fun things with it. And I have the LFO, and then I sent you a comparator one as well.
mm,
The comparator it's just like a beautiful circuit. And I built a tutorial on how to design for it, but it's very specific on what your circuit is and what your
mm.
signal levels are
Yeah.
and where you want to set your thresholds. Additionally, the non inverting amplifier is just basically all over all my circuits. The main thing is for me, like op amps, you could just do anything you want. It's insane. You could have active filtering, waveform generators. It's been a really good time just getting really intimate with those. I think I've kind of graduated with them. Kind of did summing amplifiers and stuff like that for my mixers and splitters series. And yeah, there's a lot of head banging.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure when I look at the schematic, they're more complicated than I've gotten into in my building experience. But
Yeah. I think some of my stuff, it's 20 stages of things inside of it.
yeah.
And also some of those do you too. You might get a kick out of them.
So what's on the bench right now? Are you working on anything in the meantime? Or I know we talked offline a little about family life and things, which is always an issue for a lot of us. But what's on the docket for what's coming up at the mall?
Yeah, so I have, all of my daunting experiments that are sitting there, and time is becoming more limited, and I'm being a lot more focused on like, okay, what am I going to spend my time on? And for me, as I do work in the engineering field, I really like to look to see how I can progress my engineering skills, not necessarily in audio, but I need to find a project that is fun for me to do. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, I need to like polish up on my firmware programming skills. So I'm like, I'm going to go do all this stuff. So to answer your question, I'm working on a DSP right now.
Okay. Crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, and it's basically I stay up late just studying FFTs, and that's another thing that I'm going to be taking from scratch. So I want to design my own FFT
Okay.
algorithm,
Uh-huh.
and that's going to be I don't want to use any libraries because I want to see what I can manipulate in there
Yeah.
to be able to use those things.
Okay. Now, are you experimenting using like Arduino or Raspberry Pi, or is it just a DSP chip, or how's that?
I'm using Teensy currently,
Okay.
the Teensy microcontroller. I like it. It has a good amount of processing power on it.
Yeah.
And I was originally going to leverage their libraries. And then I was just like, let me just go from scratch. Same thing I did with the op amps. I'm doing that with all of the digital side and all the firmware
Okay.
side as well.
And have you gotten deep enough to start making weird sounds or things coming out of it?
Yeah, so right now I'm building an 8-mode bit crusher, and each one of those is using a different process for processing the inputs. And
Mm,
I'm also manipulating the outputs on there. So I have a massive pedal line. And basically, I have my target goal of what I want to do, but I knock out all the low hanging fruit as I go. So the bit crusher is low hanging fruit. There's the I2S protocol that is kind of my goal with the DSP stuff, but I'm knocking
okay.
out this bit crusher in the meantime because
Okay.
algorithmically it won't change too much, just the quality of the sound will.
Okay. That's cool. Well, what's available now that people can check out on Tumult? Do you still have some pedals available for people to buy and things that they can take a look at?
So I have some here that I could show you.
Yeah.
This is the Panic Room, which is a modulation distortion. I have all these controls over here that control the timing, and you can automate your modulation.
Okay.
I always tell people this just turns your guitar into like a possessed monster. It's insane. This is another one of them. So the rumble strips, it basically takes two channels and it toggles them back and forth between one another, a tremolo.
Okay.
These are all kind of like what I'm really into engineering for. All that low hanging fruit, I've basically sold all those, and I probably won't be returning to them unless I get a high demand for them. But right now, I'm just doing all my passionate experimental things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing speed bumps. So
that's beautiful.
Oh yeah. So my wife does all the artwork for all these, by the way.
That's cool.
And it's multi-layered silk screened, and she spends a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
So I'm bringing back the speed bumps, which is the same thing as the rumble strips, but it bounces back and forth between 4 channels. And then additionally, it has 2 different timer circuits. So you basically create your own time signature out of doing tremolos, and you just strum and it just picks things that it wants to get out of it. So
yeah, that's great. So I'm going to end just with this because I think it's important for people to know. I mean, you talked about creating all of your stuff from scratch and how your wife does the artwork. I also want to bring up, just because I've seen videos, that you guys are actually doing the silk screening yourself as well, right?
Yeah, she's done a couple of videos debuting it, and we're looking at doing UV printing because we just can't keep up with the amount of time. And I think we're always going to keep the silk screening going, just because I love like a worn out pedal where the silk screen starts to get all messed up, and there is little blemishes on there that make it really unique.
Yeah.
She does do hand painted versions as well, which we usually do 1 or 2 of. It's kind of like the initial release of the pedal. Then we do silk screens, and we are moving to UV printing at some point. I just need to mess with all the Photoshop and
becomes a whole different process, right? I've actually helped a couple of people do that, and it takes some work, but the results are always great. So
yeah, it's a lot of tedious work, and once it's done, you're just like, okay, I'm done.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's a wrap for another episode of Defining Circuit. Thanks again, Brett.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Good times.
And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the conversation, stick around. More interviews are on the way where I'll keep exploring all the things that define why we do what we do. Brett, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tim.